Hello everyone and welcome to round 2 of GT Academy. We're in a 370Z at Apricot Hill. Bit of a unique challenge this one because we're on low grip tyres, which means a lot of battling for grip, sort of a bit of sliding, four-wheel drifting should we call it, but generally getting quite decent angles so that we can get a really quick exit and quite a stable exit. Now stable exits are going to be the key in this one, but they also require some precision, so the round 1 with the Nissan Leaf at Brands Hatch is useful, and if you haven't seen that guide I'd recommend watching it or going to the actual time trial and actually just doing it a little bit to give you precision with the throttle and brake and the steering. Fortunately in this one I did film my steering, so there is a steering cam at the end. That's for my fastest lap. Now there are 2 laps for this guide. Basically the first and second sector are going to be of another lap, and then the last sector is of my fastest. Basically my fastest has a horrible sector 1 and a horrible hairpin, so yeah, it just shows you the time available really. And I'm also using Immortal's Ghost if anyone's interested. It's a really good lap, so highly recommend watching Immortal going around Apricot Hill on this combo. But yeah, we'll kick off round 2 and we'll kick off by first stating speed across the line, which is 128 miles an hour. I wouldn't worry too much if you're not there really. It's not a really restart thing unless you're fighting for rank 1, then it might be an issue, but other than that just get a decent exit out the last corner and you should be on your way. So I'm going to just pause it here for the first and second corner. Now I consider this to be one corner, you may consider this to be 2 corners. Basically the first one is dependent on the second, so if you do one wrong you get the other one wrong basically. Essentially how I think of this corner, and I generally think you should think of this corner like the same way, is a bit like Druids at Brands Hatch in the Leaf, a triangle. So if you think about the triangle and trying to curve that triangle off, you're basically doing a 180-degree turn but over a wide corner. So it's not a hairpin, but obviously it's sort of like that, because if you look on the map in the left hand side you come back on yourself essentially. So if you think of it as a triangle, and when you hit that point you want to then be turning for the next part of the corner, or turn 2 if you really want to call it that. So we'll talk about the first part. Basically I would suggest lifting off the throttle as you touch this curbing on the right and turning in at the same time, and then begin to brake. So what you're doing there is you're going to aim directly for the points you're aiming for of the triangle. So if you lift off, turn in, brake. Generally brake around 50%. You don't have to brake 100% because you want to maintain speed throughout the corner. If you brake 100% you're going to come off and then just be rolling the car. So just trail brake through, it'll just keep your average speed up, and you're aiming in the middle of the 2 corners to be at a point where you can turn in and get a really good line for the second part. Now you'll notice I initially accelerate a bit too long and turn in, so I don't get tight to the curb where I really want to be, but I can bring it back slightly. If you run too far though, you're gonna either slide out or just run so wide that your line for the next part is going to be absolutely horrible. So if we just watch me do this now, as we let off there, we begin braking, it's 50%, I then just trail brake all the way through. You'll see all the lines go sporadic as you can see there, and you'll also see Immortal there. Now Immortal's got a bit more of a slide on. That will happen on occasions because obviously you're lifting off, turning in. Because it's such a fast corner, you've got a wide variety of lines as well. So you've got Bandit on the left, you've got Ghost on the right, you've got Immortal sort of to the left of Ghost. I'm going to be a bit more to the left of Immortal in a second. Generally, just try and get to this point in the middle of the track, and then you're going to you'll be able to manage the speed for the second part of the corner. Now, how do you manage the speed in the second part? I just dab the brake. I keep dabbing the brake until I get the rotation in the car, because you're going to want a bit of rotation for the exit, and when I've got that the initial rotation, I then begin to accelerate. So I'll just play this through now, and as you can see I'm going to start managing it. So I'm at 25% braking, 25%, I dabbed off, dab on, and there we go, I start to accelerate. So it's just managing the speed really, and you can see I'm starting to go ahead of Immortal there. Basically Immortal didn't get, as he was slid a tiny bit too much, he just went a little bit too wide, and he's not got sort of the right line fully, but obviously as you know, if he's rank 1 he's obviously done a good lap, So it just shows you the priority of the corner. It's not really a big priority because in sector 1 the next bit is more of a priority than these two corners, as you'll see in a second. But if you get a good first corner, like at brands like Paddock Hill Bend, it wasn't really that necessary to get a good Paddock Hill Bend. You still can get a good lap, but it's nice to have a good corner because it's like a good psychological way to start a lap. So I'll just accelerate round now. You'll notice I come off slightly just to get a bit more rotation, and then I'll start to accelerate again, as you saw there. And I'm just going to pause it here. As you notice, I'm in the middle of the track. Now, I said the previous corners don't affect the next sequence, but if you're more to the right, they will. Obviously, if you're to the left, doesn't matter. You'll actually have a more settled car, but you won't have as much speed coming out the corner. Because Immortal was slightly wider, he managed to get a more tighter line here, so he can actually have a better run at the corner coming up. I can go to the left and get a good right-hander. Basically, with the next corner, I'll just play it a little more just until we get to the corner. So I'll play it until that point there. You'll notice that the track sort of curves in, a bit like a NASCAR track. Obviously in an oval, the NASCARs are set up in a way that they use this to their advantage, so all the weight goes onto one side of the car and they can accelerate, and the car doesn't become unbalanced because it's set up like that. The track helps them because obviously the curvature of a track, it means the car is more planted to the track, and so it has more grip on the tyres and it can accelerate round. The same situation can happen here. So if you run slightly wide and into the middle of the track, it doesn't matter that the weight's going to be more to the left, like you're going to have so much more weight going over to the left hand side for this right hand corner because the track helps you with that. Now in this situation as well, there are two ways to do this corner. You can do the consistent way, which is less aggressive. It's not really that much slower, if I'm honest. You're talking thousandths probably. And what you'll do is you'll come into this corner, you'll just let off, and you're aiming for the most inside of the corner as you can, basically as close to the cones, because that's where the track is most sort of to your advantage because of the way the track's angled. Or you could do it the way I'm about to show you, where you go more aggressive into the corner, so you're accelerating a tiny bit longer, you're using the brake to get the rotation in, and it should allow you to accelerate that tiny bit earlier. So we'll just play that through and you'll be able to see that. So I'm going to brake, as you can see there, brake, 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 I've let off, bit of throttle, and then I'm going to go accelerate here. Now notice I'm accelerating before I've even hit the apex of the corner. Now I know in my mind that the car isn't going to get that unstable with me accelerating now because of the way the track's sort of shaped. And it's the same throughout this sequence until the third part of the sequence. You use the track to your advantage. The more inside of the track that you use, the more the track is to your advantage. So if you go wide at any point, the car is going to become more unstable. So if you ran wide here, the car's unstable. Now if you're unstable in this first part, each part of this sequence affects each other, you're going to be unstable in the second part, unstable in the third part if you're trying to go quick in all three. If you're unstable in this part is the least important out of the three time wise, then you can stabilize yourself in the second for a good run at the third. Obviously if you don't get a good first part, you're going to have a bad sector 1 period basically. So you can begin to accelerate. If you're going to get some oversteer or think you're going to get some oversteer, just come off the throttle slightly. Obviously it's rear wheel drive. Coming off the throttle slightly, you're going to have less wheel spin and you'll be able to accelerate. As you'll see here, I'll just come off the throttle slightly, just manage it a little bit, and I'm going to be in the middle of the track and I can accelerate. And notice I was faster than all the lines through there. That's just because, and they'll be faster as well usually on a good lap. You just got to get it right. If you get it right and get it perfect, you can accelerate through there no problem whatsoever. So I said that corner affects this one. It does. So obviously I'm in the middle of the track. This one is a very aggressive corner. If you can be really aggressive here and use the track and just get the right angle on the car, you can gain quite a lot of time. I'm talking tenths actually in this corner. It's quite a lot of time here. So what you're going to see me do is I'm going to come off the throttle very quickly and come straight back on it very quickly. What that's going to do is going to give me a bit of rotation. I'm obviously doing the turn at the same time, so I'm going to get a bit of rotation, and the fact that I put accelerate straight away, the track helps me with this because obviously it's angled towards the car the corner, so it helps me with this. I can then accelerate, and as the track helps me. The weight's stable, everything's stable, and I gain loads of time. I'm keeping my average speed really high, so your apex speed here should be minimum 80. Now you could do a bit less and try and get a better angle for the next one. I generally try and stay above 80. I'm actually aiming to stay around 82, 83 miles an hour because I'm then going to jolt the car right essentially for the next part of the corner. These two corners are more sort of more linked than the last corner in this sequence. So as you'll see now, I let off and go straight back on. Notice I've got the angle straight away. I can just accelerate. I balance the throttle slightly because of course I'm going to be managing the way the car. If I go full throttle constantly, I'm going to get a bit of oversteer. I went from half to 3/4 to half to 3/4. Now if I stay at 3/4, as you'll see I'll do in a second, basically that means the weight stops moving, the weight stays stable, and then I can just carry on through the corner. The car stays stable at that point if the weight's stable, and I'm away. So as you can see there, I stay at 3/4 for quite a while, then we come into this next corner. Now I'm going to let off. I'm going to let off a little bit more. The track is not to my advantage here, so of course I can't go as fast as the other corners. I can't go as aggressive, but I need to be aggressive anyway on the exit. So I'll come off and I'm just going to roll off slightly, and then I'm going to want to balance the throttle. Now you got to be careful of the exit. The exit has no exit curbing and you're going to be close to it, so if you touch the grass you're more than likely going to be disqualified. If you don't touch the grass, you could be fair game with the lap. What it does do, and you'll see it in this lap as well, is it might force you to overturn. If you overturn the wheel, you're going to get a bit of oversteer. That's going to compromise your exit. You can't compromise your exit. You've got to make sure you have a smooth exit, which does sort of correlate to what I just said a minute ago, in the fact that if you get a less tight of an angle, you can be a bit more aggressive through the corner. Generally, this is the sort of line everybody takes, and it's a general line I sort of agree with as well, sort of going through the corner. So you'll see me come off now. You can see I'm already coming off. I stay off the throttle for quite a while. I then come on the throttle and then balance it. I'm staying at 3/4 again for quite a while. Make sure the weight's balanced. I'm slowly coming on the throttle and then full throttle. Watch now. There's the oversteer. You can just see it there. I corrected it slightly. I'm just going to pause it there. 88 miles an hour on that curve. If you do it perfect, you're talking 91, 92 miles an hour. 88, you can see I've had a bit of a moment in the corner. This is where Immortal now goes ahead of me. That's also going to be playing in your mind. This is the problem of using a ghost sometimes, is if you know you're ahead of it, it'll be playing on your mind straight away because you know you're on a good lap, and then obviously somewhere where you can get disqualified like there, which happens quite a lot, you're going to overdo something, and then it'll cause you to lose lap time. So as you can see, 88 miles an hour, and I'm going to come to the end of sector 1 and I'll have a 0.313. So unfortunately, that's not my fastest. I've been in the 0.2s. If you're going for absolute perfect, you're talking 0.1s. That's the absolute perfect run. 0.2s is what a lot of people get because it's still a very good run at 0.2. 0.3s is still a very good run. 0.4s is horrible. That's what I got on my fastest run. So obviously you know there's a 10th there straight away. Right, this left-hander, so the start of sector 2. There are, once again, several ways to do this. There's several ways for a lot of corners. You can do the sort of let off the throttle and just let the car coast through. It will gradually start to rotate as you turn the wheel. You're after rotation near the exit of the corner, so you can just like go for it out the corner. You can be quite aggressive, and I'll show you the aggressive route now, where you just go in full throttle and you use the brake quite a lot. You dab in the brake, and once again that's doing the same sort of thing. So the last brake in a little bit, it'll slow you down a little bit more, but it'll get rotation in the car. Or you can go out wide and come in, or you can actually sort of manage your speed throughout the corner, so just average your speed out, which I do in my fastest lap, and that was actually faster than this one, but you'll see that later on in the video. So we're going to show you the aggressive one now. So as I come into this corner, I'm going to be throttled for quite a while, brake, and then I'm going to brake again in a second, brake, and then I'm just going to let it roll again, and then brake. Now I'm going to keep letting off. Now the apex speeds vary massively with the ways you do it. So the average speed one, I'm not going to drop below 84, 85 miles an hour. This one I've dropped to 82, I go to 81. It doesn't really matter apex speed. What you do here is just about maintaining an average speed throughout the corner. So on the exit of this corner, you're going to begin to do something which you did at the last corner, which is maybe overturn or start to oversteer because you're trying to accelerate out really quickly because it's a straight, and you know it's a straight. You know if you get that tiny bit more speed, you've got a bit more time. Try and be careful of that. Balance the throttle. Even if you come off slightly, 95% throttle to then 100 again, you're still going to get a very good lap. If you're in the 35s, 36s, 37s, struggling to get gold, just do that. You want to be smooth. So as you'll see here now, I begin to accelerate. I come off slightly, I don't get enough rotation, and then accelerate, and there's that rotation. You can see I'm angled there. I'm angled much more than Immortal is. I can just accelerate through. Immortal obviously doesn't need the angle. Obviously he gets a good run out, and I'm accelerating out and get a good gear change there as well. I'm not using all the track there. Need to really. The exit curb there, the end of it, good signal for whether you've done a good corner there. Is 100 miles an hour. Below, if you're just below it, doesn't matter. If you're above it, well played. And we're going to come to a corner where you can gain probably the second most time out the whole lap. So I'm just going to pause it here just before the 100-meter board. So once again, there are several ways to do this corner. You've got the smooth way, rotated way, or absolutely aggressive and nutty way, or the handbrake way, but I'm not talking about the fourth one, so down to 3. First one, smooth way. I've done this quite a lot on consistent runs. You're going to brake at around 90 meters. You're going to brake hard, but you're going to stay to the left. The sort of top guys that rotate, they're going to turn in, but you're not going to turn in straight away. There's a racing line. It's the dark racing line. You can see it up ahead through the ghost. As that starts to turn in, you're just going to wait a little bit and then do it. You'll have half a car on it, but as you turn in, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to stay smooth. You may want to then start to come on the throttle about 20-25%, just to keep the car it preps you to go on the throttle a bit quicker. It'll keep the car stable if you then begin to accelerate, because there's already a bit of weight over the rear, and then you can accelerate through when you judge yourself to be in a position to accelerate out. You've got the really aggressive way, which is sort of 90 meters, a bit less than that even, braking. And what you're going to do is you're going to brake. So it's a triangle again with this aggressive way. You brake, you go in, you're going to run slightly wide, but then you can turn around and come back in on yourself and then accelerate out. Doesn't work in my mind. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it can't work. If you want to do that, I would try it. It depends on your driving style. Or you can do the rotation way, which is also it can be quite varied in the results basically, and in none of the I do get it semi alright in this one. Don't get it right at all in my fast lap, but basically what you'll do is you'll brake at around 95 meters. You'll brake. You'll go to about 50% braking, so you're starting to really trail brake into the corner. And what you'll do is you'll change to second. What that does is, because obviously you're braking and then changing gear, it just loosens the rear completely. It'll give you a bit of rotation, and then you just need to balance the throttle and accelerate out quite quickly. If you try and balance the throttle really early on, you'll just get too much oversteer and it'll completely ruin your exit. Now, if I was struggling to get gold, or I was a second or even half a second down, I would go for the smooth consistent approach. If I'm going for rank 1, which I'm now I'm not going for rank 1 but top 10, I'm now trying to start to use the rotation approach, because that's where most time probably is. But you're going to lose a tenth or two doing the smooth approach, and aggressive approach can give you all sorts of results. So we're going to try and see the rotation approach as we watch now, as we go into the hairpin. You'll notice Immortal does this amazingly well. You'll also notice Bandit does this very well as well. So if you come in, I'm 100% braking, 100%, drop to third. I then should come off the brakes. See, I didn't get it right there. But because I'm trail braking, the initial there, I need to explain that a little bit. Because of the initial braking phase, I dropped to second before I'd come off. But then I started to trail brake and I turned in a little bit more. And that's put loads of weight over the front and none on the rear, and it allowed me to rotate in. And you can see I'm going to start to play with the brakes. Gone in a bit too quick. So as I start to do that, I'm now going to go on the throttle. I've gone 100% to try and get the rotation. Don't quite get it. Half, then full, because I'm now going to make it out. And you can see Immortal there is now going to start flying away, because he absolutely nails that. It's not too bad of a corner. As I say, what you really want to do is, as you go from 100 to 50% braking, as you go to the 50, then you change to second and you will get more of a rotation. So I'll now come up to the sector time. As you approach this corner to the right, try and stay as tight as possible. Don't risk hitting the cones. There's no point on a good lap. But do try and go on there. You'll see Immortal goes very close, and then I'm going to hit a sector time there of 0.438. So this is the end of the first lap. What we're going to do now is go to my fast lap, which you'll see in a second, and I'm on a 0.5 something or another. So you can see there's a tenth there straight away, and generally, you know, I can knock another tenth off straight away. I can go faster than 0.438 as well. That's not my fastest at that point either. So I'll just play it through. It should merge anytime now. Boom. Go on, merge. There we go. So we're at a 0.514. So we're nearly a tenth down. And you can see Bandit's there because he does the hairpin very well. Dan's there, and obviously we've got Immortal's Ghost. Now, this fast left, it's quite a unique corner, I would say. You don't really see this on many tracks at all. In the fact that you could take it, well, you can take it several ways again, but it's you're going into a sort of a hard corner after it, like straight away. It's so you need to prep yourself on this corner, and this corner has to be sort of right in order to prep yourself for the next corner. So I'm just going to play this a little bit, and then I'll just explain why I'm where I am and Immortal's where he is. So I'm going to there. So I've just stopped it there. So I'm just before the 50-meter board, and I brake. Now you can brake on the 50-meter board, but you'll more than likely run wide. You'll notice Immortal's further to the right than me, and that's because he wants to get more. He's going for rank 1. He wants rank 1. That's all he wants. I'm going for more of a just get a faster lap approach, and this will give you a more consistent way. So Immortal's going to the right, braking and getting more rotation, so he can accelerate at 70 when he's rounds, because his apex when he hits the curb he wants to be on 70. I'm going to be on 68 miles an hour. Now I brake here and get the turn in. I can then judge my braking a lot more. I can come off the brakes and go on a bit harder. I will always hit the apex, and I'll always be on the curb. So I always hit it around this point just before the 50-meter board, and I'm always going to start to turn in. So as we watch this through now, and you'll see people do it different as well, I'm just trail braking in, I'm judging the braking, I'm changing it constantly. I come off a little bit because I know I'm going to slow up too much, go on the throttle a little bit, and now I'm going to judge it here. So I've actually dropped to 66, I thought it was 68. But you'll notice Immortal's got a bit more rotation, and he can get a better line out of this corner. But I'm still on the curb, and I've still done a pretty good run through this. So I'm going to just play this now, and I'm going to then pause it here, because this chicane is the LapBreaker. That's what I will name this chicane from now on, the LapBreaker. And we're going to talk about this in two parts. So we've got part 1, which is the right, and part 2, which is the left. Now, if you're going to do this all in one part, you just want to straight line it, don't you really? If the cones weren't there, you would try and straight line this as much as possible. But you can't do that because of the cones. Now I take this, this is my second best ever run at this chicane I've ever done. I've done it slightly faster once before, and that was it. This is actually faster than Immortal, and I think it's probably about the same as Dan's. You'd have to judge it yourself. But what I'm going to try and do is the first part of the chicane, or the LapBreaker, I'm going to try and be as tight as to the cones as possible. I want to make the second part the least angled. So if you try and straight line it, it's going to be more of an angle. I don't know the angles off the top of my head, right? So if I make the first part tighter, the left part's less tight. But if the first part's less tight, the second part's more tight. If you get where I'm going. So what I'm going to do as I come into this corner, I'm going to dab the brake, because I want to be as tight as I possibly can. Now I aim for the cones because I know understeer is going to cause me to go away. If you're on a slower lap time, just aim slightly left to the cones as you turn in. Now as I do that, I can then, in this situation at least anyway, I balance the throttle straight away, and it stabilizes the car. The car instantly straightens up, and I'm thinking, excellent, gives me a perfect run at this left because the weight is stable, it's not moving left. If I try and straight line this, I'm going to be quite erratic with my steering, and I've noticed a lot of my friends do this on their fast laps. The lines I've seen is that they go in really quick to this first part, and then they chuck it left. And what you're doing when you're chucking it left, you're shoving all the weight to back right so fast the car just oversteers, and you're not going to get any speed on the exit. Watch how I do this now. I'm just going to be tight on the first bit. The car is so stable for that first bit that on the second part of the chicane, I just turn in, and I just turn in like any other corner. There's no chucking it in, I turn in. But obviously the track's angled in a way that I can just be aggressive. Now, apex wise, I'm seeing people, people say on the exit curb they're hitting 67 miles an hour, which I've tried to do that, and I've been chucking it in to do that. you don't want to chuck it in. My exit curb, my best is 72. This one is 70, nearly 71 I think, or it might be 71 just. 70 is what you're aiming for. My apex speed on the second part of the chicane, that's the one that's important. Doesn't matter about the first one. The second one, I'm 64 miles an hour. Most people won't hit 64 miles an hour, and we'll just play that through now. So as I come in, I dab the brake, I get the turning I want, and look how tight I am compared to everybody. And look, I balance it. Look, the car is basically straight. I can then turn in. I have no problem turning in. The weight's not being sporadic, and I can just accelerate through. I have to straighten up there on the exit, and the two reasons why I do that. First is the fact that I know I've absolutely nailed this corner, and I'm thinking, dear Lord, this could be a good time. Second of all, because of that psychology, I just don't want any oversteer whatsoever. So I just straighten it up a little bit. Cost me a tiny bit of time, but I'm still absolutely nailed this spot on. As I play it, 70. It's nearly 71. I've been at 72 there. That was my best, and I've never been able to do that since. But as you can see, compared to Immortal, I'm now what, 2.5 tenths behind. 2.5 tenths puts me on a 0.68 or whatever it is. So we're going to approach the last corner now. The last corner is it's a part of the LapBreaker, really, the LapBreaker chicane. I'll just play it through actually. So I'm going to accelerate through as normal, and the yellow markers for the pit lane exit is sort of my guide. As they approach the sort of end of my TV screen or whatever, I start to turn in, and you notice I've turned in quite a bit earlier and I'm quite a bit tighter than them. Now you'll notice it on the Wheelcam that I have to correct this because I get a bit of oversteer and it costs me a bit more time, which is why it then goes to a 0.745 for the lap. So as I turn in, I have to overcorrect. Don't do that. As you turn in, I would take Immortal's line if I was on going for a slightly slower time, or if I wasn't thinking about it as much. I'd take Immortal's line. I may even want to come off the throttle slightly. What that'll do is it'll just balance the car a little bit. It may cause you to rotate a little bit, but you can come on the throttle a bit more. You can balance it a bit better. You do want a tiny bit, but you don't want too much. So as I come in, I'll have to overcorrect a little bit. As you can see there, I got a bit too much, and then I can stay flat throughout this corner. And then I'm going to want to change to fourth quite early on. As you'll see here, I'll change to fourth at 90 miles an hour. Now fourth usually is 92 miles an hour. The reason I've done that is because I don't want the car to oversteer on the exit. I know I'm on a good run here, so it doesn't matter if I lose a tiny bit of time, which I've already done there. Let's get a good exit to the corner, let's get a good finish to the lap. Now, I mentioned about lifting off there and then going on the throttle. You will lose a bit more time, but you'll then get a better exit anyway. If you go full throttle into this corner, you're either going to oversteer if you don't change to fourth. If you change to fourth too early, you'll understeer, and it's really about judgment. I changed to fourth around 90 miles an hour. It seems to work. I only did this technique recently just because I kept finding myself trying to get that extra little bit out of third gear, and it kept costing me more time because I kept slightly oversteering. So I just changed a little bit earlier. It may cost me a tiny bit of time, but it gives me a lot more consistency. On the exit, as I leave this exit curb, should be 99 miles an hour, and it is. If you're below that, 98's alright. 97, you've done it slightly wrong, or you've had a bit of a mistake there. But you can see Immortals then extended that point because of my slight oversteer, and he got a bit of sort of corner, last corner. But you can see how good that chicane was just from this lap. And as you can see, I am going to get a 134.745, and that's basically the lap. It's a lot about judgment and precision and just using the weight to your advantage. Now, the advice I really keep giving, and I give this a lot in I give this all the time in my videos, is 75% throttle, 80% throttle. It's so good for your driving if you're trying to balance a four-wheel drift, a slide, or anything really, or balance a car in general. Just coming off just that tiny little bit, it helps so much. 100% causes a lot more problems than 80%, and it's the same here. If you can do that just to balance the car, you'll get a good lap at the end of it. So 0.745, I'm aiming for a 0.5 in the end, and you can see I get 17th place. You can see my other lap was just before with a 20th place. So we're going to go into the steering. This is going to be slightly faster, but I want you to watch the steering just so you get a good idea. You can see what the car's doing now at the bottom left, and this is my fast lap now, so it's slightly different to the guide at the start, but you'll see it in full again after the wheel cam. So once again, I'm preparing myself. curious question with it. I'm just going to put it there for a second. The gloves are for on the right hand side of my wheel. The stitching slightly come away, so I get I start getting cuts and blisters and all sorts. So I'll wear the gloves. Generally, you can wear gloves anyway. I know a few friends who wear the racing gloves. Don't really need them. I prefer it without, to be honest. And the yellow strip, people probably ask me about that as well. That's basically just there for you. I don't really use it. I may use it subconsciously. I don't know, but you can see that that's straight. You'll be able to see where the wheel's angled. So let's kick off, and first off, as we approach, we're going to lift off there, brake, and look how much turn I'm trying to put in. I noticed I've already gone way too bad into that corner, and then I'm going to start to turn in really sharp here, and I'm going to do it wrong. And notice there, I'm just getting too much understeer in the wrong place, and notice how much further Imortal's ahead. Now remember, in the first part of this guide, Immortal was behind, so that's how much time I lost on that corner, but it doesn't matter. Let's focus on the rest. Notice how I'm now going to turn in. Notice the wheel's not moving that much, and I'm going to try and straighten the wheel straight away because I know the car can stabilize because of the weight. I'm now to the left. Notice how smooth the inputs are. I'm going to where I want to be straight away. There's no jagged movements. Once again, just slightly balance the car. Bit of oversteer there, didn't want that, but I've then accelerated through. Not too bad. Horrible first sector, as I said, and that's the 0.4 that I was on about. And you know that we were way over a tenth up on that point. So at this point, notice how smooth my wheel is. I'm trying to just get the car to turn in a little bit more. Notice my apex speed as well. That was 85. You'll see it in the big version coming up in a minute, the full screen. But you notice how smooth my inputs are. You've got to be smooth. I'm not drifting and then doing all sorts of chaos, left, right, left, right, left, right, all that sort of stuff. I'm just straight. Don't take your hands off the wheel. That was me just having a itchy face there. So as I come into here, once again, look how tight and I turn the wheel as well as I come in. I get this horribly wrong again. Don't get any rotation from what I want, because I said I want rotation. I had to brake a bit more there. Look how tight that is. It's way over 90 degrees, nearing 180, and now I'm accelerating out. Bit of oversteer there. You can see I had to correct. One thing with the wheel, if you're going to correct something, do it very quickly. Just do a quick right left or left right or whatever you counter steering with. It doesn't affect the car that much, and basically it helps with the weight a little bit. So as you can see, come over, and now we're going to go into the perfect last sector, really. Well, pretty much perfect anyway. So I come in again, watch the wheel. So I go left. I'm just trying to balance it, and then smooth, 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 smooth. There's no jagged movement. Stay smooth. Look, I've stayed at that angle for quite a while. I come back and straight into the right. Straight into the right. There was no straightening up really, and then back to the left. Look how smooth that is. Straighten up there. That's the straightening up I mentioned about. That was just to stop any oversteer. And then I continue through. Now watch me counter steer. Remember I said about counter steering? Watch in a minute. There you go. You see that? I went to the right there. Don't want that on that last corner. You've got to be really careful of that on the last corner. And then you're going to accelerate through again. And then a nice lovely finish to the lap there. 99 miles an hour. And well, I like that last section on that lap. It was that chicane, second best one I've done. I've done it once better, and it was a lot better than that, and I've not been able to do that since. So here we go on the fast lap. So we're going to approach the first corner. What you want to do is lift off on the exit curb, not go that far in. Notice I run too wide now. I'm too far behind Immortal. Try and get a good line. I'm still understeering a bit too much, costing me time throughout that corner. Now I've got to prepare myself. I want to go in. I'll go in aggressive, brake a little bit, get a bit of rotation, accelerate through, use the track to your advantage, let it balance. Be aggressive here. Once again, be aggressive here. Got to be careful of the exit though, don't get disqualified. Notice I'm on the throttle a lot more earlier in this than the guide. Just a good corner. Now I'm going to approach this. I'm going to average my speed here. So notice I'm going to not go below 85 miles an hour, balance the throttle a little bit, try and manage any oversteer. Excellent exit on that corner. So I'm going to approach the hairpin. I'm going to try and go for a rotation. Doesn't quite work out. Remember, be smooth, brake later, turn in, or go for a rotation as you change gear. Notice there, trail brake, change gear. Didn't quite happen for me there. It's a bit more inconsistent. You've got to be careful of that. Quick correction of the wheel there on the exit. You're going to have that quite a lot on the exit of the hairpin. Got to be careful of it. Now, we don't want to stray too far to the right. We want to stay slightly to the left here of Immortal, just for consistency wise now. And we're going to come into the corner, try and maintain 70 miles an hour. If you can't, just try and get a good average speed. Come in, stay really tight here, then go for a nice smooth left hand part of that chicane. Exit, be careful of the exit. This last corner, be very careful. Lift off if you need to balance the car, then accelerate through. Quick early gear change to 4th at 90 miles an hour, or 90-ish, and then accelerate through to the finish. And get a good final lap time there of a 1:34.745, and me being very happy. If you want the reaction video of that, check out the actual fast lap that I uploaded just before this. I'll put a link in the description as well if you want to go watch that. And you can hear me commentate as I do the lap. I always sort of think to myself, what am I doing? How am I doing it? What do I need to improve? Do I need to change my line a little bit for this, and this? I'm always doing that. I filmed 2 hours of myself with this steering wheel cam. I would put the 2 hours up, but I'm not sure you really want to watch that. But you can hear me think about the lap, speak about the lap. My actual reactions, that's the reaction I have after a lap. I love getting a good lap because it's the sense of feeling that you've achieved something, you've done something right. Obviously my first sector was atrocious, but you know, I did the last chicane perfect, and that's a lap breaker, so you know, doing that right is always a good feeling. So any questions for GT Academy round 2, give me a shout, I'll be happy to help. Of course, as I've said, it's about precision, the throttle precision, braking precision, steering precision, balancing the weight of the car, balancing the sort of the slide that you get on certain corners, and risk management again, like we had on round 1. So your judgment: do I want to go for a consistent way of doing the corner, or do I want to go for a risky way of doing the corner to get lap time back, or to actually just get a good overall lap time? So yeah, any questions, give me a shout. Otherwise, I'll see you at round 3.